Stadium Journey podcast. Thanks for joining us tonight. Stadium Journey is the ultimate stop for the traveling sports fan. Our website, stadiumjourney.com, contains over 2,500 stadium reviews, news items, and more. And in addition to the website, we are all over social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. Like, follow, comment, and share all over the place. The Stadium Journey podcast is now part of the new and improved HIAC Talk Radio Network. You can find this podcast and all HIAC's great content just by searching HIAC Station Radio Network. Use your podcast search app. Do the same thing on Spotify. And in addition, all of our old video podcasts are on the Stadium Journey YouTube channel. Perfect for binge watching. And all of our archives of our old podcasts are still on VOC Nation. If you happen to be watching the show at a later date, the Stadium Journey podcast streams live on twitch.tv/danlaw83. Welcome to everybody watching right now. All right, I'm going to take a second and introduce our starting lineup. That's what us PA guys do. Dave Cotney's here. You can follow him at ProFan9. Mark Viquez can be found on the social medias at Ballpark Hunter. Dan Colachico, the above-average comedian, is here. You can follow him at DanLaw83. And I am Paul Bailey. You can follow me at PuckmanRI. So it might look a lot like summer in many places. It was 90 degrees here in Massachusetts the other day. But tonight, we're going to cool things down and talk some hockey. We are thrilled to be joined tonight by Zack Fisch, the play-by-play voice of the Hershey Bears. Zack, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming on tonight.
It's good to be here. Great season. I'm glad we got through. And yeah, it's been warm here in Chocolatetown, USA as well. But good to be talking some hockey playoffs going on and the Stanley Cup finals coming up around the corner. But it's been a couple of years since I've been with you boys. Good to be back.
It's great to have you back. Yeah, so you mentioned it was just an unusual season just completed down in the American Hockey League. You want to tell our listeners a little bit about what happened this year?
Well, I'm glad we were able to play, plain and simple. That was up in the air, really, honestly, until the puck dropped. Even in the wee hours before, making sure the players agreed to getting out there on the ice with things being restructured with their payment. It came down to the final hour in a lot of different ways. But certainly, as we know, with the COVID-19 pandemic, just so many extreme circumstances. And plain and simple, everyone said, you got to get fans in the seats for the American Hockey League to play. This isn't the NHL. You can't do a bubble. You know, the American Hockey League is not making a ton of money off TV advertisement compared to the NHL or others. You need butts and seats, plain and simple. And that was not really possible when things got going in January and February. But we made it work. 33 of the Bears' 36 scheduled games were played in Hershey. Every team was a little different. Things went on points percentage. There was no Calder Cup playoffs. Pacific Division did a modified playoffs, but made the best of it. Ultimately, it's getting development for the prospects, and it's keeping teams relevant and fresh in their areas and letting fans scratch that itch. But we had to be, as I'm sure we'll talk about, creative with social media, with games on television, streaming things online, because we started the year, we had about 400 fans allowed in Giant Center, and as you guys know, it seats 10,500. Most nights, those seats are pretty full. And then by the end of the year, we had about 1,500, and that was it. That's still nowhere near what we're used to. Fans just couldn't quite make it like normal, but there was still that interest and excitement around our team, not only for as good as they were, just because of what they are in the market and the demand for tickets being so high and the supply being so low.
Wow, I got to say, I'm kind of jealous because up here in Providence, not only were we not allowed to go to the games, Providence moved. They had them play at a practice rink up in Marlborough, Mass. So the only way to catch the P Bruins this year was online, like you said, on television. So that was a bit different.
Yeah, it's just different around in the league. There are several teams that played in practice rinks. I mean, Binghamton, unfortunately, is no more in our league, which is a crying shame. We got to get the Binghamton hockey franchise back at an upper level, the American League. I know they're getting a Federal League team, which is better than nothing, but
not really.
Yeah.
They'll be back eventually.
Hockey's hockey, I suppose, but if they could get them back in the AHL, the ECHL, it's one of my favorite places to go. But they relocated to Newark, the Devils practice facility for the NHL club. Got to experience that for the first time this year. There are several teams that were out west, even the Chicago Wolves, who are a historic franchise, were playing in a practice facility. It was discussed at one point if the Bears would play maybe at Hersheypark Arena if they'd have to play somewhere else. As cool as that would have been, there are just so many logistical hoops to jump through. It's sticking at Giant Center, which obviously Hershey really kind of has a big interest in compared to other places where they're just leasing. It made more sense that way. But different year in a lot of different facets. The atmosphere was completely different. You didn't see the music so loud. The video board have all sorts of craziness on it. The fans, of course, next to none. Cardboard cutouts in certain places, pumped in fake crowd noise. And then just on top of it, a lot of things that we're used to that are fan friendly were not permitted by the league, as far as giving out 3-star sticks or T-shirts or whatever after the game, or fans banging on the glass. They weren't permitted to be up against the glass. So very different in those ways. Was fortunate no other league let their broadcasters travel, while I was lucky enough to be able to travel to the games. Now, Hershey only went to Newark, New Jersey to play Binghamton, only went to Lehigh Valley to play the Phantoms, and then Wilkes-Barre. So all close day trips where we didn't have to stay in a hotel for safety's sake. That was another quirk in the season. But I was lucky enough to go and be able to travel to those, while the ECHL didn't permit their broadcasters to go. And the NHL also did things remote as well. So that was one normalcy that we had, even though it was very few visits to different locations across the country compared to normal.
That's something I wouldn't have thought about. Yeah, the broadcasters having to do things remotely, because every video that I saw was done remotely. So that's
difficult. It's difficult. I didn't do any American League games remotely. I know guys that did, and they don't have the natural sound, the microphones, right? They don't have what's going on in the arena to get those cues of things. But I did do, I was fortunate enough to do 7 games filling in for the Washington Capitals radio network this past year, and 3 of them were remote games. So I called a game from Madison Square Garden twice. Listening to it, you wouldn't know I wasn't there, but I wasn't at Madison Square Garden. I wasn't at the Coliseum on Long Island, but I did games remotely. I had to go actually to Capital One Arena in D.C. to a studio they had set up there, and then a couple monitors, and watch the game. And there was one scenario, just to explain how difficult it can be. Artemi Panarin got a breakaway and scored for the Rangers. He was off the screen when he got the puck. It was a long stretch breakaway, home run pass to the far blue line, and you have just that glimpse, right, to be like, okay, what's that number? He was shielded a little bit. Luckily, his skating style, his hair, and I could catch part of the number. I was able to kind of guess and get it right. But, a lot of these guys, that's all they've done is these remote broadcasts, and baseball did that, basketball did that. It's certainly difficult. I hope that it's not a cost-cutting thing. I understand why it would be, but there's so much more you can bring as a broadcaster if you're at the venue. I mean, going to Dunkin' Donuts Center in Providence when they get back there, there's so much I can bring in that atmosphere when it's a full house, getting a chance to go up on Federal Hill and bring some of the locale and the area to my broadcast, the flavor to that. You don't quite get that when you're sitting in a studio just reading facts off about Providence, Rhode Island, and not quite seeing everything that's going on around you and having to guess. So hopefully that's something that we can get everybody back on the road and get going towards. And, I think at the American League level and the NHL level, there's an understanding that's going to continue. It's the lesser minor leagues that I worry about a little bit.
Yeah, definitely a good point. Yeah, and I guess when you're doing a game remotely too, I'm thinking about you're at the mercy of what the setup is in the different arenas, because some places, especially at the AHL level, have excellent systems, while some places not so much. So
there was an example of my buddy Matt Trust, who worked with me in Hershey. He unfortunately his position got cut here in Hershey, but he landed on his feet very quickly. He's now doing not only PR but broadcasting in Greenville for the ECHL team there, the Panthers affiliate in the ECHL, and it's even kind of worse down there with their system because the AHL has at least mandated you got to get a lot of the graphics off that AHL TV feed. You can't have the graphics that are blocking gameplay. Well, the ECHL hasn't quite caught up to that. He was doing a game in Rapid City, and there was 30 seconds of play where they're just showing fans in the crowd dancing. And he eventually, at one point, after trying to fake it for about 10 seconds, said, they're still showing fans. This guy's dancing. Don't know what's going on in the game. And you just kind of got to go with the flow and have fun with it. So it's a challenge for sure. I don't envy guys at that level that have to do it for every game. And they're playing a full season down there, guys. They're playing 72 games in the ECHL this year, kind of a different world in the South for a lot of those teams. So they're playing a full year, and a lot of games remotely they're making it through.
So that's one of the things I wondered about the HLTV deal. So they had to tell. I wonder if they had any say in what the graphics looked like on those live broadcasts, and you kind of just answered that. So they handed down mandates to be like, listen, we have to have the game. You can't have stuff going on. You can't show directly the arena feed, or nobody's going to watch that kind of deal, I guess.
Yeah, they want what's called essentially a clean feed. So you're getting, the things that go on the video board in stoppages are totally fine. But in intermissions, and there is an ability on this setup for you to run advertisements or promotional information, upcoming game schedule, those type of things. Someone can go back in and run that. But a lot of times, and I've dealt with this in the USHL, the ECHL, everywhere, if the video board is showing an ad during the game and they don't cut away quick enough, you might miss a goal. And that's, you're not paying to watch that, you're paying to watch the game. So the clean feed was essentially mandated when they switched to AHL TV. Not everything's perfect, but I think AHL TV has been awesome for the league. It's been a big step up. The price point is way lower as far as things go. They put games for free on Facebook, and then the look is the same for everyone as far as the scoreboard on there. That was actually for us a little bit. We really liked the board that we had in Hershey, the score bug on there. We had to take a step back and go with what the league mandated for that wasn't necessarily as advanced, because everyone else, that was a little bit nicer for them. If you look at Providence, for example, they use kind of the basic Daktronics feed in the past, where it just says home and guest or whatever was put in there before, and it looks the same font as a scoreboard, essentially. This now, it's all a uniform look. So is it perfect? No, but the league and Hockey Tech, the company that works with, have taken big strides for sure.
I will just say this. I push AHL TV more than I push NHL TV. Not even at the price point. I know you're all kind of working together because you're feeding the big guys, minor league. But as far as watching the games and easy access, there is no comparison.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about compared to even other sports. AHL TV has been a savior for hockey nuts like Kelly and I, because we'll watch West Coast games even if we don't have a horse in that race. We'll watch them because it's like I can just press play and it's there. So my question was, I wanted to get that out there. If you're ever thinking, if you're on the fence, get off that fence,
Absolutely.
Hop on over, put in your card information. You will not regret it. It's one of the best investments yearly that we have. So my question is, do you get feedback from that app? Is it been getting the word out? Is it popular? Is it making the league money?
I'm not sure about the last point because I don't get to see those figures, but
sure.
I know we get a ton of subscriptions in Hershey, and that is fantastic, and a lot of other teams do. And I know that more and more sponsors are open to being on there. For the first time this year, we had a sponsor on our scoreboard bug, which is great. And each individual team can have that. If you're watching Hershey's feed, you're going to see Penn State Health on there, one of our biggest partners. If you go to Wilkes-Barre, I don't know what they have, but they have a different advertisement as well on theirs. So that can be customizable, which is awesome. And more teams are integrating that, which is great. But couldn't agree with you more on your feedback. I mean, the price point is awesome. We hear from a lot of Capitals fans that have bought AHL TV to follow prospects and to be able to go, look, I'm not going to watch the Bears if the Capitals are playing. They're my team, right? But I can go back and I can catch up on Connor McMichael, and I can keep an eye on the future. And I can also watch really high quality broadcasts that is brought to the table. Not everybody certainly is on the caliber of every team that has the best broadcast. We're lucky to have the crew that we do in Hershey. And our feed actually gets picked up as a TV broadcast now as well. That's how good of a job they do. Kudos to those guys. But you can watch a high quality there. So it's been good for the league. We get a lot of feedback just from people saying, hey, the audio's too low, or fix this or that. So that's how I know people are watching. Yeah. And I think people are going to grow from this year, because a lot of teams did give out subscriptions to their season ticket holders. They work with the league. They found a way to give out those subscriptions if you renewed your tickets. So I think a lot of people that have had it now are going to be hooked and go, look, I can't make every away game. I got to buy this package next year. I had it last year. I can't live without it.
I just want to tack this on before Dave takes over. And it's because we've watched the games the most. The fandoms and the Bears. Maybe a little edge. I'm going to give props and edge to the Bears. Their broadcasts are damn near perfect on AHL TV. It almost syncs up to the second the radio break is over, because it's not the radio feed, but it's almost kind of like a satellite feed with your audio. Sometimes I hear you communicate with the guys on the board, and it's like, it's so cool. I love that. I just wanted to put that app over again. I love that app so much.
That's our biggest thing. And Mike O'Brien, it was actually filled in, I think, for the Boston Bruins, doing some PA announcing at times. He's a former Wilkes-Barre broadcaster. He used to have in his Twitter bio, yes, we know you can hear us on commercial breaks on AHL Live at the time, because the way that it works is essentially I set up my radio board here and I go back to the radio station, and then we plug one additional cord in that goes to our feed. Now, if I'm talking back to my producer on the radio station, no one can hear that. They don't have me turned up. I'm not on the air, but that's the only way as of right now AHL TV can get their feed. Are they working to eliminate that? I think they love to come up with a uniform system where the levels are the same for everybody. Wow. But we know, and my producers know, I warn them before every year, hey, we can't be talking about what is this player doing or anything like that. That's going to go out.
Mike.
And there have been guys over the years that have been burned by that a time or two before, forgetting or not realizing they didn't mute their microphone or what. So, you got to be careful with all that type of stuff. But kudos, like you said, to our crew, great save. It does a great job at the broadcast. And the fans are great too. Service Electric broadcast all their games. But yeah, on the really good ones, you're watching an NHL caliber feed like you would be sitting on your couch, turn it on NBC. And even the lower quality ones, you're still watching crystal clear HD. And then, they got the app with the camera that you can zoom in on and pretty much choose where you want to go, which actually comes into really big handy for certain things for the league. If a player comes off the bench or anything like that, they now have a camera that's a wide shot that you can see everything in every building that they have access to tap into. So it's been a really good partnership for the league.
Yeah, isn't that how Tom Brenneman of the Cincinnati Reds got fired? He was talking into a
mic,
a semi-hot mic.
Yes. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like going up to the NHL was the biggest difference for me, because you're not on a TV or anything like that. But your producers do talk to you more, and you can hear yourself talking. It's not like muted, but you're not on the air. But you kind of just got to trust that you're not anywhere else. So I still obviously take that approach that anything that I don't want to get out, I'm not saying. But you're right. That game was in Kansas City. I'm a big Kansas City Royals fan. That's where I grew up, Kansas City, and I happened to be watching that game. Now I was watching the Kansas City feed, and then Twitter started blowing up, and sure enough, I had to go back and rewind and hear what everybody heard and see the very awkward apology. But yeah, that's the last thing you want as a broadcaster is to have that hot mic in there. That's one of the all-time weird.
Always assume your mic's hot.
Cristiano hit a home run in the middle of his apology. That's called the home run.
Made it even worse.
Tough way to go.
I was going to say I forgot about the apology until you mentioned it.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. Realistically, if you say that type of stuff and you get in the broadcast booth, if you think that way, it's going to come out. Your true colors are going to show. So one, you got to be a good person, and you got to not have that vocabulary. That language in your vocabulary. And if you do, you got to be a lot smarter than that, but there's really no excuse for it. So at the end of the day, I like to think, if I wouldn't say it around my mother, I'm definitely not going to be saying it in the broadcast booth. And you always got to assume there's some sort of hot mic in there.
Yeah, for sure. Let's change gears just slightly a bit. So in the last decade, at least decade, maybe 15 years, the AHL has seen a ton of changes, most of which I think are fair to say have been pushed by the NHL. So we've had the big Western push, the purge from the East Coast, moving everybody to the West Coast. Not everybody, but a good chunk of teams to the West Coast. We have teams like the Toronto Marlies, the San Jose Barracuda, the Manitoba Moose, all sharing essentially buildings or markets with their parent club. We've got like the Bridgeport Islanders. All of these definitely pushed by the NHL. So how do you feel that all of this almost increased control by the NHL is affecting the NHL? Like, do you think it's good for the league? But how are you feeling about all of this change that's happening?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. And I mean, you got to give Dave Andrews, who's going in the AHL Hall of Fame, recently stepped down, a ton of credit, because in the 90s, I grew up going to Kansas City Blades games, IHL, and there's a big power struggle in the 90s. This is really where it all started turning. I'll get to your question as quick as I can here, but we saw the power struggle, and both leagues weren't going to survive, and the AHL aligned with the NHL saying, hey, we'll work with you. We'll be your affiliate. We'll kind of meet the demands that you need. And that outlasted, the IHL being in these big markets like Kansas City that, weren't really fit for them, that weren't profitable. And the AHL made kind of this market out of it. But you're still going to get the Providences that go back to the days of the Reds, the Hershey Bears, the Rochester Americans. Those are the cornerstone franchises. Binghamton being lost is a big hit to this, but you're still going to get those cornerstone franchises. But you're right. It's a feeder, the top development league, the NHL. The NHL has a lot of influence in it. How rosters are made is completely changed. And Hershey's an example of that. And you can't say that it's impacted the success of the team because the Bears just were the regular season champions. All but 1 year since this change occurred, they've been in the playoffs. But in 2016, Washington took over full control of hockey operations with the Hershey Bears. They build the roster. Brian Helmer is the vice president of hockey operations, but he's not the general manager. He can't go out on his own and sign 5 guys if he wants to American Hockey League contracts. He works hand in hand with Washington and then identify who they want. And he negotiates the contract with the blessing of Washington, and together they get it done. But in the past, Doug Yinks, if he didn't like the direction the team was going, he could go out and get Scott Gomez if he wanted to, and then Scott Gomez could play over a young prospect particularly. There's got to be a balance of it. And I look at what Washington and Hershey has done as a prime example, and you could even go with Providence and Boston, and I'll give an example of them too. But Matt Molson brought in for Hershey, makes a pretty penny, I'm sure, on an American League salary. Those numbers aren't published, but he's not getting paid nothing. He's probably getting pretty good bucks for an American leaguer. He's not going to play in the NHL anymore. He's older. He's not a Capitals guy, but he comes in, and the Capitals want him here because not only can he produce for Hershey, he's still one of their top players and top power play players in the league. He's going to grab the young kids and help them. And Connor McMichael's a prime example. He's going to be a great NHLer. Was just named to the all-rookie team today. Matt Molson has helped him a ton. That's where development winning go hand in hand, and you have to have that. While at times there's a power struggle of development winning that the AHL and the good franchises have found a really nice mesh for. While you look at Providence as well, Paul Carey gets a 2-year deal to be the captain of the team. He's a serviceable call-up, absolutely, a former Bear as well, to go up to Boston if need be. More likely than not, he's probably an American League player, but he's going to be great for these young kids that Boston seems to keep bringing up and having success at that next level. So if you're a good franchise and you can manage that development that has to be there now because of these changes that you talked about and mesh it with winning, that's only going to help your young guys. And Washington really believes in that. But you're right, from rule changes, from 3-on-3 overtimes and the trapezoids coming in and hybrid icing, the AHL has kind of been a tester market for a lot of these things. And then it's gone up to the NHL level. And then you see the franchises relocating, so it's more convenient. It's more money saving. That's also been part of it. There's been pains with it. You see markets lose teams that are great markets. I mean, Norfolk's a coast market now, and I know they're struggling compared to where they were, but that's a great American League market that stinks to see them. But if you think about it geographically, it makes a lot more sense to Anaheim to have their team in San Diego than it does in Norfolk, Virginia. So there was some reasoning to it. There was certainly some heartache with it, but I think teams are finding what works to mesh that winning and development and still have really good hockey because the fans still manage, and you guys in markets know it. I mean, Paul, you know it in Providence market. You want to see the Boston Bruins do well, but at the end of the day, you want to see the Providence Bruins hanging banners at the end of the year too, and that's what the fans demand at these levels.
So one of these big changes then too is that this AHL schedule has become absolutely ridiculously unbalanced. Do you think that this is hurting those markets? Like, you can only take your fans can only take seeing Lehigh Valley so many times a year or whatever. And is there, do you think that it's time maybe to split the league into half or make it like a more like old school baseball where it was like National League, American League, and they don't cross over at all and then, meet in the playoffs? Or where do you think the balance is with regards to scheduling and keeping your AHL markets happy?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a step back from the crossover a little bit just because coming out of the pandemic, there's going to be teams that are weary to spend big bucks to travel cross country right now. I don't think it's in the cards for the Bears for this upcoming year. I haven't seen the schedule, but we were actually one of the teams that were very proactive in trying to get more of that. We did a trip a couple years to the Midwest and played Grand Rapids, Milwaukee, and Rockford, and we were hoping to expand upon that. We were actually supposed to go and play Iowa for the season. That did not happen. That got eliminated, and then it got cut down to 36 games. I'd love to play against the Chicago Wolves. Wendell Young, former Bears goalie, runs the show there. Those are two kind of cornerstone franchises since Chicago came into the league, of these old guard teams with a lot of success that I'd love to play. But it has to be reciprocal, where if you go there, they have to come to you. And we're still working on that. You look at the teams in California, they're not playing the same number of games as the teams on the East Coast. So to get them to come out and play and travel, and then also come out to us if we come out to them, we got to get them to the same number of games probably first before we can do that type of thing. So is it a problem? It's a little bit odd when you go to vote for awards at the end of the year and you're like, I haven't seen half the league. I got to go based off of, like we talked about, what we see on AHL TV and what we see in the box scores and what we hear from our colleagues. But I hope that after we get back to normal, I think we got to get through the 21-22 season, but I hope the following year more teams investigate playing elsewhere. Wilkes-Barre was a team that was with us on that. They went to Texas this past year and played against the Texas Stars. I think they played San Antonio too. So there's a few teams that are like-minded, and this is good for our fans. This is good to see different teams. I love the rivalry with Lehigh. I love the rivalry with Wilkes-Barre, but yeah, 12, 14 times can get a little bit much, especially when it's, kind of clustered into one clump. This year it was what it was, right, to get us through the season. But, I do hope that we can see some different opponents. But there's ways around it. Like Binghamton's was a sore spot for me, and the schedule makers do the best they can, but Wilkes-Barre is the same. Like that's an hour and a half from Wilkes-Barre. That's 2.5 hours from Hershey. And we went there once and twice most years in recent years, just because they're in a different division. Like I would much rather take 2 or 3 games away from Lehigh Valley and 2 or 3 games away from Wilkes-Barre and even that out and play the Devils a little bit more. But just not the way that it's worked out. So I agree with you in a lot of sense. I understand it in a lot of sense from a business perspective, but I would love to get to some more of these Midwestern cities, and eventually, hopefully someday, I think everybody, we want to get to Henderson. Book us to Henderson right now, please. Send us to Henderson to check things out. We will investigate, and we'll write up for Stadium Journey, about that arena there. It'll be a business trip for all of us.
There you go.
Well, being out in Indianapolis, I would love to see the Bears play a special game in Fort Wayne, because I think those are probably one of the better minor league hockey markets from a fan's perspective.
Fort Wayne's legendary. I got to see them play when they were in the UHL.
Wow.
The team they had the team one year in Kansas City. That was one of my first gigs writing for them as a kid for a newspaper, just doing stringer reports and stuff. But
back in the day,
see them was cool. I never been to that building, but obviously listened to Bob Chase, and that's a
legend.
That's a legendary market. Different leagues now, but I mean, if you want to talk about minor league or just not only hockey, but minor league franchises that are just so established that the average hockey fan knows about. They probably know about the Comets. They probably know about the Bears. If they're going to know any 2 minor league franchises. Yeah,
definitely. Now, I'm a Bears fan. My first game was 1992 at the old Hersheypark Arena. I visited a few times since. Anything going on there right now that I should know about?
Well, there's a couple exciting things there. LVC plays there, which is Lebanon Valley College.
That's right.
They're a D3 team. Doug Yanks, former Bears GM, is involved with them. So they practice there. We get to see them there quite a bit. I think they draw like 500 people-ish a game, but it's hockey in the old barn. But another exciting thing is Bruce Boudreau has moved back to town, and he's bringing a junior hockey league team here, the Hershey Cubs. Their logo, if you haven't seen it, is like the Minnesota Fighting Saints, who he, of course, played for.
That's right.
It's a bear, like with the cherub with the halo on the top of it. Same look. They're in the United States Premier Hockey League, so it's like Tier 3 junior, not necessarily USHL or NAHL, but looking to get kids D3 scholarships and move them up to upper levels. Bruce's son Brady is going to be one of the coaches. He grew up in Hershey for a couple of years when Bruce was coaching here, but Bruce still wants to be an NHL coach. He's made that pretty clear. But Hershey, this is where he's going to retire whenever he's done. They bought a house. I think it's on the Country Club. And he loves Hershey, and he's here with his wife now, and they're kind of running the team. They have a team in Minnesota that they do as well. So they're going to play at the arena. I think just with his name and what he brings to the community, I think they'll get some fans. And the Bears, Hershey Entertainment, who owns the Bears, they don't own this team, but they're proud supporters of it, and was helping them with the press release, help get the team off the ground. And I'm excited to go to some games and help out where I can, because there's college hockey, there's junior hockey, there's professional hockey, and a great youth hockey market here. I mean, this is truly a piece of hockey heaven here in Chocolatown.
And now, would the Bears ever play a throwback game at the old arena?
I would love it. I'm not gonna say never, but from everything that I've heard, because this is honestly one of the most asked about questions for our fan bases, I just know that it would take a lot to get that building up to code with the way ADA guidelines are now. They had to have removed some seats, unfortunately, a few years ago due to molding issues. Some of those old wood seats had to be taken out as well. So the arena is still immaculately kept. Our crew does an unbelievable job with it, still hosts events there, but to get the people in there that would want to get in there, it'd be very difficult. But one of the coolest things that I got to do right before the pandemic hit was Bob Costas. This is actually a funny story. So I'm in Springfield, and with Beaker, who, if you know, Beaker is our legendary trainer. He's been with the team since the 70s. He's kind of, they have Ralphie in Springfield, that they call the old GOAT. Beaker's right up there with him. These guys have been around forever and seen all different eras of hockey. I'm with them in Springfield. We're actually just finished touring in Bristol, Connecticut, ESPN. They did a piece on our teddy bear toss. They invited us out when we were in Springfield, close enough, short trip to come see. So pretty cool thing there. I get a voicemail on my phone, and it's like, "Hey, Zach, this is Bob Costas. Give me a call." I'm like,
all right.
Okay, bud. Okay. And I'm with the guys from ESPN, and this happened. And they're like, "Yeah, I think he's got an LA phone number. That can't be him. That's one of your buddies pulling a prank." I'm like, "All right, I'll give a call back once we get out to the car." I put it on speaker, and Beaker and I, 5 seconds in the call, like, put it on mute, whisper each other, that's him. That's his voice. That's Bob Costa. So he was doing a family trip. He happened to just be driving through Hershey in the coming week, and said, "I want to go where Wilt Chamberlain scored 100 points. I want to see that arena. Is there someone that could tour me around?" So along with the historian that we have here, myself and a couple of our staff members got to take him around Hersheypark Arena, and they came over to the Giant Center and took a picture with our coaching staff. Couldn't have been nicer, sharing stories of his days as a minor league broadcaster. But he had never been to Hersheypark Arena, which, of course, as you guys all know, but listeners may not, is where Wilt Chamberlain scored his 100 points, and is a historical place, not only for what the Bears did there, but for that alone. So that was a pretty cool thing to get to take him around.
So Bob Costas has that much pull. He just makes a phone call.
Yeah, I don't know how he got my number, but I'm sure he did. Let me tell you that much.
I'll be there in an hour. Okay, Mr. Costas.
Yeah, whatever you say, bud.
We got him all hooked up with some Bears apparel. He and his son Keith, and his son's a producer for MLB Network, so kind of all in the family. And it was only about a 3-hour trip for him, but he had a blast, and then instantly went and talked about it on a couple national interviews he did. So
win-win situation.
Nice. Yeah, it worked out.
What I wouldn't give to catch a game in Hersheypark Arena one more time.
One more time.
Yeah, to broadcast a game there would certainly be on my bucket list. So I'll have to see if Bruce and his team or LVC ever need to fill in for one day. I wouldn't want to step on any toes, but even just to call those games over there would be awesome.
Did you say, Kelly, that Hershey Bears playoff game is the hottest you've ever been?
Oh, yeah. I can imagine.
Those seats, man. It was like sitting in church, but you know what? I didn't care.
I can imagine. I've been to an older building for games, but I can't imagine a Hershey Bear. I'm a hater, but I acknowledge the hate and why I hate the Bears. I don't really
game, baby.
I don't hate the Bears. I just hate the Bears. It's like,
I feel you.
But when I stepped into that building, unlike Madison Square Garden, Dave, when I walked into Hersheypark, I was like, I could smell it. I could smell that stuff went down. It went down here,
They don't make them like that anymore.
No.
It is a relic lost in time in the best way possible, where even just like the molding in the lobby of the building is like this old hockey design. And just anytime I take people over there, my parents or friends that come into town, other broadcasters, that always catches their eye, and just the way the seats are. And you're right, the seats are not made for people this day and age.
No, they're not.
They are tiny, and the broadcast booths are crammed in right among the seats and are tiny too. But we still practice there a decent amount throughout the year.
Oh, really?
And I know
Nice.
it's difficult for our equipment managers to schlep everything over there. It's a lot easier when we're just at the Giant Center, but it's some of my favorite practices of the year when we're over there just to take in the history. It's unreal.
Yeah, and they didn't knock it down. A lot of these old sporting venues, whether it's an arena or stadium or a ballpark, okay, we're done with it. Let's knock it down. This
Not
is
even fire took it down.
Still
Yeah.
being used for hockey. It's not used for the home of the Bears, but it's used for, they still do public skating there, correct?
Yeah, public skating, skate classes. It's used for all of that. The ice gets taken out somewhat this summer, and then there's some other events that come in there.
Do they have
wrestling was in there for a while? But
they don't do that anymore, the high school wrestling?
yeah, that goes to the Giant Center now.
Okay,
They finally moved that over there to the newer facility, but they do have some events over there that go in. But yeah, they keep it up really well. The crew does a good job. There was a fire there, I think 2012, that luckily made out with minor damage of. But I love going over there. The creepiest I think I've ever been in an arena is we do some morning broadcasts sometimes with TV stations to start the year, and they get there and meet you at like 3 a.m. Giant Center was unavailable, so we did them at the arena. It was me in the pitch black at the arena waiting for the maintenance guys to turn the lights on. They're old lights, so they got to warm up. So it's just kind of eerie with the ice all foggy because it's still pretty warm in October at this point. I was just expecting some of the great ghosts of Hersheypark Arena to pop out. But it's an incredible place. I mean, if you want to talk about stadium journey, it's something that's got to be on top of everyone's list. If you're on the East Coast, even if you just have a chance to drive up and walk through without ice or with ice or just pop in, it's a place that you kind of have to see as a hockey or sports fan, because it is something like there's not a lot of left out there anymore. Like you said, most of those type of buildings no longer are standing.
Okay, so I'm gonna bust up the Hersheypark Love Fest here.
Yeah, we could go on for a while.
It's getting a little gushy here, Mike.
Bring it on! Bring it on!
Yeah.
Give a nice kiss.
Zach, full disclosure, I'm up here in Canada. I'm a big Canadian junior hockey fan, Canadian Hockey League. I am not totally ignorant of the American Hockey League. Been to I'd say 2 handfuls of places. I've been to Hershey, I've been to Chicago, Belleville, a few other spots. But I have been accused of being a hockey snob on this show a few times.
I get it.
Baseball snob too. So sell me on it. Why should I be interested in the American Hockey League? Why should I travel to see American Hockey League hockey in various spots? This is your chance to sell me on it.
All right, let me get my salesman pitch on here. It's been a couple weeks since I've had to wear this hat, but look, the AHL from a hockey perspective, it's for the most part you're going to see your future stars ahead of when they go on to be in the NHL, which is something to be said right there. Now, you could say that too about the Canadian Hockey League, but there's going to be a lot of guys that are just on the cusp of playing in the NHL, and they are right there, and you can see it for a fraction of the price that you're going to see it in an NHL market. But you're still going to get those rabid fan bases in most places. You're still going to get really high-quality hockey, and you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be on TV and that we're going to be talking about on other podcasts someday, because they're there before they get that next opportunity. What the AHL brings to the table is this high-level, world-class hockey for affordable prices for families that is very competitive, that is very elite, that is essentially a breeding ground for future stars. And what I love about it is the competitiveness of the league and the parity of the league is so strong, much like the NHL. But you can be following a team, following a guy for years, and then he gets that break and he's an unbelievable player at the NHL. Or you have those hometown heroes that might never get that break, that are with the franchise for a number of years, that are something truly special that we see less and less of at the minor league level as well. But what it's going to encompass, if you're a hockey fan, you're getting high quality hockey, you're getting future stars, you're getting veterans that are still playing for the love of the game, and you're getting teams chasing championships and still a lot of hitting, still an occasional fight here or there. It's not a gong show like it used to be. It's damn good hockey. This isn't a brawler league like it used to be anymore. Things have certainly changed. If you're talking about from the fun perspective, We got the teddy bear toss in Hershey. From a family perspective, you're not going to get that. That's not allowed at the NHL level. This crazy, unbelievable event that gets all over the world, from Canada to overseas, that's minor league hockey at its finest. And that's the salesman side of it that I love, wearing the PR hat, getting to pitch these national TV stations about we're throwing 45,000 teddy bears onto the ice after our first goal. You got to see it to believe it. For a hockey purist, that doesn't really do anything for them. For the family man, for a mom that's looking to bring her 4 kids out, that's a demographic that we have to hit here at the AHL level, that's going to sell it to those folks. So you get the best of both worlds, where it's affordable tickets for folks that are just getting into the game, and then you're getting really good hockey that's competitive, that's future stars, that's great systems, that's a feeder into the NHL, and it's truly special. And to compare it to major juniors, and I was in the USHL for full disclosure as well, so American side of major juniors there. The only difference is kind of the college eligibility side and just being on different sides of the pond. But that league is great. You get to see kids when they're young, and you can tell, like Kyle Connor just scored for the Jets last night, elimination goal. Saw him at 16, 17 playing for the Youngstown Phantoms. Knew he was going to be good, but he was super young, so the hockey wasn't quite as advanced, wasn't quite as there. Not everybody on those teams went on to play, professional hockey. So you kind of weed some of those lesser players out as you get up. You get guys stronger, more mature. It's bigger bodies. It's men out there on the ice. So you're going to get a little bit better of a level, a little bit more of a physical style of game, a little bit more advanced level of hockey. While I love juniors, I love my time in the USHL. Pro hockey is a grind. But there's a lot of good that goes along with it. So there's your pitch on the hockey side, on a family side, and they mesh together and make what's truly special in minor league sports.
And especially in Hershey, you have chocolate.
Look at that. You made Dave so impressed he can't speak.
Thank God.
But shut him up.
Yeah, that teddy bear toss was incredible, Zach. You said 45,000 teddy bears?
Yeah, that's what we did in 2019 before the pandemic hit, which is a world record. Beat out the Calgary Hitmen, of course, are at the Saddle Dome, which is a bigger building than us, about double. Calgary wants to say that we don't have a legit record, but that I was there. It definitely was that. And are people counting? There's hundreds of people counting, and they take their time on it and get it right.
It's okay. Calgary doesn't have a legit owner.
We had a drive-through teddy bear toss as well this year, and we had to wait just for some logistical reasons in the pandemic until January. So we were worried we missed out. A lot of people maybe donated them for the holidays. We had to wait till January, and I think we got. I have to look back at the number. I think it was 33,000 in a drive-through teddy bear toss. The people driving by and tossing bears out their car windows. Like, our fans are nuts in the best way possible. They look forward to this. I think people that have been saving them we're going to have maybe 50,000 next year. And it's a long delay to clean all those up. We did the game on TV in 2019, a lot of tap dancing having to fill the time, but they go to about 40 local charities and kids in need. And it gets attention all over the globe. We have some analytical monitoring systems that our company has, and it picks up all the international hits. And seeing some of these countries that I don't even know what language they're speaking, but our teddy bear toss video and my voice quietly in the background while they're speaking in their native tongue over it, that's pretty cool to kind of see the reach that it has, not only locally and the good that it does, but internationally too.
So you had the 45,650 breaker. The year before that, you had 34,798. And during a pandemic year, this is from the Hershey Bears website, 31,381.
Perfect. I was close.
So
tell 100,000 teddy bears over 3 years.
You tell Calgary to be quiet.
Hey, they're doing good for the community as well. It's a friendly rivalry at this point, so we'll take it. But our fans, that Michael Jordan meme, taking it personally, that's our fan base when they're like, what?
And I took that personally.
Yeah, our fans, they take everything personally. They want to be the best at it. They have that attitude. We got the most banners. Come get as many as we have. We got the most teddy bears. Come get more than we have. So that's what I love about Hershey is it is such a diehard place. And that's another thing is, junior towns, you get that too. But you get these towns like Hershey where not only is chocolate the thing here, that's huge for tourists. The locals love it as well. But in Hershey Park, the locals love it as well. But it's a huge tourist thing. But the hockey team is the heartbeat of the town, in my opinion. And we got 10,500 seats and there's 14,000 people that live in Hershey. Now, they come from the surrounding area too, but just the impact that this team has had and the following that it has, that you can go on the street and anybody is going to know who the players are. Or, I go up, whether I'm wearing this Bears hat or not, someone's going to pick my brain and talk hockey and get their 2 cents in. And that's what I love about it. It sets you up for those great NHL markets north of the border, or in a place like Minnesota, or these hockey hotbeds where the guys are going to go to the next level and be expected, to kind of always be at that caliber and never know who's watching them.
All right, Zach. So I know that we're up against the deadline for you, and since this is the Stadium Journey podcast, I want to take our last segment here, and I want to pick your brain about some of your favorite places you've been to over your career, or some of the best places you like to go to catch a good hockey game.
Absolutely. Couple for me, and I'll just kind of progressively, if we got the time, I got the time to talk about this, but I'll just kind of progressively go through my career as a fan and then my journey in hockey and list off some places that I'm sure you guys have heard of or been to. If not, hopefully the fans can check out. But I grew up going to games at Kemper Arena, which no longer exists as a sporting venue to watch games. It's now called Hy-Vee Arena after a local grocery chain.
Great job.
Youth facility now, which is cool that they did that to it. But it was 18,000 seat arena where the Kansas City Scouts initially played back in the 70s. But I grew up going to Blades games. It was in the stockyards in Kansas City, outside the Golden Ox restaurant. There wasn't a lot around it. They put some facelifts to it, but it was old. It was dying, but it was the place that I grew up watching hockey. I loved it. I would do anything to get in a time machine and go back and sit there and sit in my old seats behind the net and watch some games. Like my favorite year was the year that after he was a star with the Penguins as a rookie, before he went to Ottawa and became great again, Patrick Lalime got assigned to Kansas City as their goalie. And my dad and I had tickets to a ton of games and went and sat behind the net and sat behind Patrick Lalime for 2 periods and just were in awe of how good he was that year. I'd kill to go back and do that again. So no longer can go there, but that's where I grew up. Then I moved into the NCAA ranks, went to school at St. Cloud State. Herb Brooks National Hockey Center there is an awesome hockey facility that is strictly hockey focused. It's not an arena. It's a hockey rink with the seats around it, named after Herb Brooks. They put in a lot of good touches to it. The atmosphere is unbelievable to watch a game. If you ever get a chance to go there, it's one of many that I had an opportunity to call games in college. Mariucci Arena is great in Minnesota where the Gophers play. Amsoil Arena where Duluth plays are great. But the best one that I've been to in college is by far Ralph Ingolstadt Arena in Grand Forks, North Dakota. It's a mini NHL building. It could serve as an AHL building for the best AHL market out there. It's sick. Like those guys have it so good if you play for North Dakota there. And the fans there are ridiculous. And it is a hostile environment and you're treated first class. And I got to call some games there and super lucky. So that is one that should be on every fan's bucket list if you follow college hockey to get to. And I know the guys that play there come to the American League and they're not necessarily wide-eyed like a lot of the younger guys because they played in front of those big crowds before. So NCAA, those are ones I'd name. Then I went to the USHL, United States Hockey League, junior hockey, some good arenas there as well. I was in Dubuque, Mesquite Community Ice Center. It's a community rink, but it's perfect. The cowbell's ringing, low ceiling, gets loud in there. Not a lot of bells and whistles, no video board, but just a real good atmosphere. But 2 rinks that I want to point out in that market. The Ice Box in Lincoln is this old, near the stockyards as well, kind of barn that you actually broadcast the game from a podium in the corner. And it is so loud and the fans are right on top of you and they have a cool kind of laser show before the game. Like it's up there as having a heck of an atmosphere when it's packed. So no amenities in that one, or Buccaneer Arena, which soon is going to be gone as well. I think that actually sustained some damage in the storms that Iowa had, and the Des Moines Buccaneers are moving into a mall, into a new arena. But that was an old barn too that was falling apart that just had an unbelievable atmosphere. So 2 cool old school rinks there. That I always love going to. And then Sioux Falls built this mecca, this Denny Sanford Premier Center that's unbelievable, that, again, is an AHL building that is awesome as well. But moved into the coast, North Charleston Coliseum was my building in ECHL in South Carolina. But some of my favorites to visit, I love Germain Arena in Florida, Estero, Florida. I've called college hockey there, NHL rookie tournament there, and ECHL hockey there. It's just a good atmosphere. It's near the water. It's in a cool part of the country. Always like going there. But I think my favorite arena was a classic American League arena. I don't know what they call it even now, but in Glens Falls, the Glens Falls Civic Center. I think it's got a name to it now, a sponsorship. But that building,
Oh yeah.
1,800 people. Well, what is it now?
Cool insuring arena.
Whatever pays the bills, I guess, right?
Cool insuring. Yeesh.
Cool insuring. Yeah, that's. I'm glad I don't have to say that. But Glens Falls Civic Center was awesome. We had a playoff series there with them. Only like 1,800 in the building, but fans were just so loud and going freaking nuts. And there's this cool diner, Poopies, that's right near it. That's the name of the place. Great greasy breakfast food. Like, that's a cool spot. There's been a lot of legendary broadcasters, from my perspective, the late Dave Schrader, that called games there. So I love that place. We got to go to Indianapolis as well. Speaking of that, the old Farmers Coliseum, and do a game there that was pretty cool. But and last but not least, get into the American League. You know, I'm biased with Giant Center. It's my home. I'm so lucky to get to go to work there every day. I love doing games at the PPL Center in Allentown. They did so much right with that building. But I'd say probably my favorite place to go to call a game is Toronto. What they did with the Coca-Cola Coliseum, Rico, or what it was before.
Coca-Cola now, yeah.
Yeah, the broadcast booth is just perfect. When it's packed, it's so loud. Like, it's a cool old building that they've made in this modern look, and it just screams hockey. You're in this unbelievable city. So that's one of my favorites to go to. I also really like as well in the American League, even though it's pretty plain. I think they did a lot well in Laval at Place Bell, if we're talking north of the border. That's just a really well done building. It could use some little bit more touches to it. It's just kind of boring as far as the concourses go, but the atmosphere is really well done. And another one that I'll give north of the border too is St. John's. Was one of my favorites, getting to go there. They're in the ECHL now. Heck of a town, cool building. Brian Rogers is their broadcaster. He's a legend. So 3 north of the border that I love. And I'm jacked to get back to Providence, Paul. I'm excited. I said to some of the guys in the league, we talked about it last time I was on this. Being away from hockey for so long, I don't think anyone's going to have a peep come out of their mouth about having a broadcast from the corner in Providence again for a while, because we're just going to be also jacked to be back in Providence and back on the road and back calling games. So Providence is one of my favorite road cities to go to. We stay right by the rink. There's always something going on in that building. You might be able to catch a basketball game there or something else in the building, Providence College or something along those lines. And then going up to Fed Hill, man, I can't wait to go get some calamari at Andino's or Casarino's and get a good real Italian meal on the road, and then get to call some hockey in a cool building with a lot of history. So I could go on and on. We could discuss further buildings, but those are just some. If you got your notepad at home to jot down, if you ever get a chance to visit on your journeys through how many different worlds of hockey that I've traveled, are some of the places that I've loved going over the years. And there's some great cities outside of the arenas, and there's some great arenas that maybe aren't the best cities as well. But every one of them has their own unique side of it. And you know, I have frequently found myself on your website looking at barns that I'm going to for the first time as well, to try to get a little bit of inside info. So it is a great resource that you guys provide.
Beautiful. It's much appreciated. I think you just launched 1,000 road trips there, Zach. You gave people some
you told me
great
to be
places.
thorough. If I've been all this time with just going to a practice rink in Newark, the arena in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, Mohegan Sun Arena, the PPL Center, I got a lot of thoughts on those places that I miss right now. I can't wait to get back out on those 1,000 road trips myself.
Yeah, you and me both. So you mentioned how you came in our orbit. I'll tell this story real quick before we let you go, Zach, because there was one game where Kelly was actually watching the game on AHL TV, and I guess so you were, for our listeners who don't know, that the visitors press box up in Providence is not in an ideal location. It's
Correct.
Way up in the corner. And so my seats in Providence, I have season tickets to the Providence Bruins, and we're right on the glass behind the net. So I get this text from Kelly saying the Hershey play-by-play guy is just, crapping all over your arena right now. So like, oh really? so we just up with this this funny back and forth about Providence, and then we said, hey, you got to come on our podcast, and then a couple weeks later there you were. So
yeah, it's not been nothing personal ever about the Dunkin' Donuts Center, although I know our equipment guys would prefer not to have to move in and out of the limited locker rooms because there's so much going on there. It's just it is. She happened to catch my broadcast on the right day, because I certainly know I'm not the only broadcaster that gets a little salty about it, and I don't normally do it on Twitter, which a lot of other guys have, and a little bit more of it's usually a snide comment here or there, and I think that was something along the lines of we had a lottery sponsor. Oh, if I won the lottery, I'd put in a new press box here in Providence along those lines. And, I'm catering to the Hershey fan base, but at that time, Providence did not have a guy calling the games, which what I would throw back of, hey, I'm glad they do now, because Providence fans deserve to have, their guy calling the games. Everyone wants to hear it from their slant. No matter how good of a job I do, I'm never going to call it from a Providence Bruins slant, because that's not my employer. I'm going to be fair. I'm going to be down the line. There's going to be chocolate and white colored glasses on for me, certainly. But at the same time, I'm not going to be a total homer. I'm just not the way that I call games. But at the end of the day, I am catering to my fan base. So every once in a while, we like to bring in the atmosphere. That's why we got to be there, to provide that atmosphere a little bit. So it was all in good fun. We had a nice little back and forth that was all good ribbing nature. But as I said last time I was on there, Providence is one of my favorite spots to go. It means a lot to our team too, because Spencer Carberry, our head coach, worked in Providence as an assistant for a year, so he loves the guys, the staff there. And Beaker, a longtime trainer, his son Dusty, runs the show as well on the medical side now for the P Bruins. So it's cool. It's kind of a family reunion when we get back there as well, with some good eats and some good hockey along the way. So never any ill will towards Providence, but that's what it took to get our worlds to collide. I'm glad I was feeling a little salty about my vantage point that game.
Just sitting on the couch with the rants going on, going, okay, I'm going to go over here.
No, it was all in good fun, and we're glad that it allowed us to meet. And
it's like you text Paul right now.
Yeah. And I think the word you just used, the word salty, I think that was the exact word Kelly used. The Hershey play-by-play guy is being pretty salty right now.
Yeah, I think that was the in word at the time. Salt Bay was going around and everything. So we were on the trend of that at that time. But yeah, there'll be a time or two that I never consider myself. I don't like to be a whiner. I don't like to sit there and harp on officiating forever or anything like that. There's too much good that goes on in our game, but. As my wife knows and has to remind me of sometimes the little snide comments I make. You said that out loud, right? So I have to remember that on the air too, to not get myself in it.
Sometimes when we watch a Bears fans game, I'm like, I'm gonna unfollow him.
If you were a Penguins fan, I get more in there because our fans.
Listen,
I dislike the Phantoms, but our fans really dislike the Penguins, and there's a long rivalry. So
that's where we gather together, because when I'm watching a Bears Penguins game, I'm like, he's right.
There's a small thing that our fans just pick up and love is that we go to Wilkes-Barre, and I'm sure this fan does it intentionally now because I'm sure it got back to them, which is totally fine. It's all in good fun, but above the press box, every game a fan will dangle down on a noose a Coco doll, a Hershey Bears Coco doll of our mascot. Ew. And I comment, it's not very politically correct this day and age to be doing something like that, and kind of gave it a little bit on the air, and our fan base liked it, and became kind of this running joke that, we must be in Wilkes-Barre. But first game they didn't have fans, so it wasn't there. The first game they had fans, sure enough, that fan just threw it down. I have no idea who the fan is. They sit above me, I can't see him, but I said on the air, I've never been happier to see Coco in this compromising position, because it means we have fans back here, and the atmosphere is coming back as well. So it definitely is fun, but that's what rivalries are for, and we got to play into that rivalry a little bit too. Our fans probably take it way more seriously than us media guys do at times, because like some of my good best friends in the industry are guys that our teams are supposed to hate each other, but we see each other so much that we're such good buddies. That it's funny how it all works out at the end of the day.
Speaking of fans, and I know Paul, and then I'll silence myself because I know you got to go. Paul's a member of this Facebook group with me as well, and he knows I actually commented on something last night just to kind of stir the pot because Paul was getting pulled into an argument that he didn't want to have. So I was just like, well, no, actually, Paul's right. And then I tipped out. But you know what I'm talking about, the logo. But yeah, I was like, Paul's right. But
as a 12-year-old kid, I wasn't going to engage.
Yeah, I just said that and I fouled out. But it's very funny. This is why I've cooled down on the Bears fans thing, other than, I hate the Bears so much. Is every day there's a post on that page about how much the Bears suck. And I don't mean I agree with it. I'm saying it's so. I'm like, the Bears are that team of the AHL. They're literally the most hated thing in that league. And being that I'm practically married to a Bears fan, I quite enjoy that. It makes me laugh.
Because they ain't us, right? That's what they say, huh? I mean, it's cool to be in a market like that everybody has envy of at times and hatred of at times as well, because it is the cornerstone, the gold market, or the gold standard market in our league, along with the teams like Providence, along with the teams like Rochester that have been here for a long time, that have won a lot, that are still very relevant and still very successful. I mean, it was going to be Providence. Hershey, probably, in my opinion, was going to be one of those two teams was going to make the finals in 2019-20. That was my biggest fear of having to go through Providence at the playoffs. I thought we could get through pretty much anybody else in the Eastern Conference to get to the finals, but Providence is always such a tough, heavy team. The success that those two organizations have had is incredible for as much history that they have in the city. So it's cool to kind of be part of that franchise and have that swagger a little bit there at times without being overly cocky, because there's some places that, as we know, whether it's junior, whether it's American League, whether it's the ECHL, USHL, whatever, that they're just, I don't want to say they're irrelevant franchises, but they haven't won. They don't necessarily have the fan base. They're there, but they're not making any noise. And when they post something, there's not any chatter on it. You prefer not to be part of that. It's an honor to be wherever you are, and nothing against those franchises, but you want to be part of one where everything is important to your fans and they dissect everything and they discuss everything. And everything that's bad is the end of the world, and everything that good is the greatest thing there is, because that's a fan base, and we have a fan base that rivals NHL teams and is a mini NHL, and there's places like Providence that have that as well, and we're certainly lucky.
Well, let's hope that our paths can cross in the 2021-22 season, Zach.
Oh, I hope so as well. I hope we can see you in Providence, see you guys in Lehigh Valley, anywhere north of the border. Always would love to have you in Hershey. Come check out the Giant Center. It's an unbelievable place. But thanks for having me again. We look forward to doing this. I think we're on like every year and a half type of schedule now. I'll have to keep giving reports. My wife was just having a baby last time we talked. He's turning 2 in a couple of months. So before his 4th birthday, we'll get back together and do this again.
Sounds like a plan, Zach.
All right, gents. Thanks so much. Always a pleasure.
Thanks, Zach.
Thank you. All right, that was Zack Fisch, play-by-play voice of the Hershey Bears. Always a great interview. Love having him on. So this is now the part of the show, and if you'll notice, those of you who are watching, we lost Dave and we lost Zach, but that's okay. We'll finish up without him.
And then there were 3.
Then there were 3. It's Survivor. We're going to recap our visits over the last couple of weeks, and actually, I believe I'm the only one who had any trips. But boy, did I have some trips. I went to 2 brand new ballparks. So let's start off. I did not go to see a Genesis concert. No.
And then there were 3.
Wasn't Genesis at one time had 5 or 6 guys in the band?
They had 5.
Then they went to 4.
Then they went to 4, and then they went to 3.
So I actually got to go to the opening homestand at Polar Park in Worcester, Massachusetts, home of the Worcester Red Sox. So, you guys all know it's no secret that I'm a Rhode Island.
I've been looking forward to this.
Even though I am now a masshole, I grew up in Rhode Island. So, yeah, got to go up to Worcester. Now, let's see. I wanted to hate the place. Really wanted to hate the place. And as we were pulling out of the garage, Pam looked at me and says, before we get going, before you get all and bitchy, the Paw Sox are dead.
Wow.
I brakes and said, get out.
Wow. Wow. She said that to you.
She said that to me, and
Wow.
her explanation was, "This is how she is coping with the loss of the Paw Sox."
Oh.
And I said, "Yeah, they are dead. They're not coming back. You're right, absolutely right." So it did help kind of clear my mind. We went in with an open
Yeah.
mind. So we had we actually
I loved it.
Yeah, Pam will always have the ability to set me straight. I have no doubt about
Usually
that.
usually spouses do. Pardon that. Usually the spouse is like, stop it.
Don't be a baby. Wait.
Yeah.
So we went up to Worcester, which is actually not that far. It's about an hour and change away from where we live. The only issue is it's a half an hour further than Pawtucket was. They built it on the wrong side of Pawtucket. If they would have built it in Mass on this side of Pawtucket, we would have been fine. So even though now I am paying for it because I am now a Massachusetts resident, I am paying for part of the ballpark I can use less. So that's what sticks to my craw. But we ended up getting standing room tickets for $9, very cheap price, on a section called the Bridge. So we'll get into that in a little bit. So Polar Park is jammed into this old abandoned industrial section of Worcester called the Canal District, which is really a kind of an underserved, underutilized, kind of sketchy area of Worcester, like at least back in the day. Canal District is making a nice comeback.
Nice.
And there's some, even before the Woo Sox announced that they're going to build the park, there were some businesses coming in that's kind of had an artsy vibe to it, which I always love in a city, that the neighborhoods with the artsy vibe. So it's not there yet, but the Woo Sox, the project is supposed to have the ballpark and shops and hotels and condominiums and the live, work, play thing that's all the rage now. None of that's there yet, just the ballpark. Ballpark is the first piece. So, interesting thing. You drive up to Polar Park. It doesn't look like any of the ballparks look like now, which is a nice thing. You know how we've talked on this show about how a lot of ballparks now, the red brick, the
Cookie
green
cutter.
seats, cookie cutter. You walked up, you drove up to Polar Park. It looked like a warehouse. It looked like an Amazon warehouse. It looks like it's blue aluminum siding.
Is that a good thing?
It was kind of jarring. I wasn't expecting it to look like that, but it did. It's different. Not good, not bad, different. And so you go inside. First of all, I'm going to get out there. They've got the stupidest mascot ever in pro sports, Smiley Ball. The reason behind that is the guy who invented the smiley face, the have a nice day yellow smiley face, was from Worcester. So they kind of made that smiley face into a mascot. That's neither here nor there. So we got into the ballpark. It's blue. It's blue. Everything's blue. Worcester blue, they call it. They wanted it to look and feel and act Worcestery instead of be a Fenway Park carbon copy. So it's all blue instead of green. It's a bandbox though. It is a teeny tiny ballpark. They jammed it into a little space. So it seats about 10,000. So we were there. The capacity restrictions were still in place. Supposed to be about 2,400 for this park. I swear there were 6,000 people there. They jammed this. The seating bowl was still restricted, but every social area, every gathering spot, every standing room was packed. So we were shoulder to shoulder. We were on the bridge, which is a standing room area, which is up on the second level, right up over the Worcester bullpen. Beautiful views of the ballpark and all the stuff going on. So it was a great place to catch the game, but we were shoulder to shoulder with people. So that was strange. And they made it look very Worcestery. A lot of Worcester restaurants, a lot of local businesses are sponsors, and a lot of Worcester foods. You can get Polar beverages. That's why it's Polar Park. Polar Beverages sponsored it. You can get table talk pies. You can get orange dry soda. All kinds of these George's, Coney Island hot dogs. All these things that scream out Worcester. And instead of having the big wall in left field, they got the big wall in right field called the Worcester Wall. It's 22 feet high. You can sit up on top of it. Some great places to catch the games. So my overall impression of the park was I really, really liked it. It tries a little too hard in a lot of ways to be kind of quirky and stuff, but overall it's a good place. It's so small though, I worry when it's fully open and full, how people are going to get around it. I think it's going to be really tight when they have 10,000 people showed up there. But real nice park. You could check out the pictures I took. I took a lot of pictures, put them on my review on the website, and I even have a video that I embedded. We got to play catch on the field afterwards.
Greg asks, is it stupider than Big Red?
Stupider than Big Red? Who's Big Red?
I'm assuming that ball, whatever mascot, whatever you call him, touchy-feely ball. What is he? What's his name? Mr. Happy? The mascot.
Who's Big Red? Is that Cornell? No, that's
tree?
a bear.
Who is
You got to
Big
give
Red?
us some updates, my man. I don't know who Big
Yeah.
Red is. That's a bubble gum.
I loved Big Red back in the day. But anyway, yeah, my overall impression of Polo Park was good. It's got train tracks right behind the third baseline. Trains are going, freight trains are going.
Oh, Western Kentucky.
Oh, that thing. No, yeah, I would rather have that thing than Smiley Ball.
I don't know, man. I'm
No,
kind of.
he's better than Smiley Ball. He
Man,
was on all the ESPN commercials. That guy.
well,
Big Red is a vet. You know,
I'll put that in the category that where everybody who says Orbit's better than the Philly Fanatic, you just being stupid.
Yeah. So yeah, without going on and on about Worcester for 15 minutes.
Are you happy though?
I am not happy to not have a team closer by. And you know what? When I was saying all along, I've been saying for years on this podcast and on Stadium Journey, this is what Rhode Island needed to do. They didn't they didn't step to the plate. Worcester did. They've got a beautiful new ballpark. I will go back.
Could Providence build something though? Is it too late?
Now it's too late now, yeah.
Well, for AAA, but could they build something for
No,
another league?
because of minor leagues territorial rules, Providence is part of Worcester's territory.
Okay, but they would have to get permission
because the counties are.
How about Atlantic? Yeah, how about Atlantic League?
That's my thought, and I don't know if we've talked about this or not. I think if Providence wants to have a go of it, they've got to get an Atlantic League team, and they've got to market it right, and they've got to connect strongly.
I think it's stupider than Otto the Orange, by the way, for what it's worth.
Yeah, Smiley Ball kind of looks like a yellow Otto the Orange.
A dumber Otto the Orange. Sorry, I don't like that thing. I saw a picture, I'm like, new.
And what's going on with McCoy?
McCoy, they have not announced it. Actually, the state of Rhode Island, who owns the ballpark, is suing the Paw Sox for neglect. And
Everybody's suing baseball teams this year.
The Paw Sox were letting it go near the end to kind of legitimize their
that's what they all do.
Can I sue somebody about Fitzner?
Sue everybody.
Can I sue somebody about that?
Can I bring my shoes?
They're suing the state is suing the team because of lack of maintenance over the last few years. So now the state is on the hook they're paying $6,500 a month. $6,500 or $65,000. $65,000 sounds like too much for upkeep to keep the place from falling apart, because if you left McCoy Stadium alone, it would fall down around your feet. So yeah, what should Providence should build a ballpark somewhere, and a smaller one, and get an independent league team, and join the Atlantic League or something. I'd go.
Yeah.
So
Let's join together and make it a class action lawsuit. I agree, Greg.
There you go. So then that was 2 weeks ago. This past weekend, I actually went to another new ballpark at the University of Connecticut, Elliott Ballpark, new 1,500 seat ballpark on campus. UConn has been pretty interesting. And Greg, if Greg's listening, Greg went to UConn. So all these sports facilities now, the whole Jim Calhoun way, where all of the soccer stadium, the field hockey stadium, the softball, the baseball, and the old Freitas Forum ice rink, where those were all there, they've almost all been torn down and they've all been replaced. So UConn had just this plain field with some metal bleachers up around it, J.O. Christian Field. Now they have this brand new 1,500 beautiful looking ballpark, which is a great place to go catch a game. And it was free. They announced at the last second, Connecticut lifted their capacity requirements and their mask mandate, and UConn said, all right, fans, if you want to come on. We're opened up. And so we went and checked it out. Really nice place. Got a couple of standing room areas that are really nice vantage points to catch the game. A nice small grandstand, like I said, seats 1,500 fans. Not too big, but it's got the amenities to be able to attract the recruits now, because UConn plays their sport on a national level. So they need a nice place. And then on Sunday, I went to Dunkin' Donuts Park in Hartford. So we went to Hartford, went home, went back to Hartford, went back home. Dunkin' Donuts Park, still one of my favorites for for minor league baseball. We talked about it on one of the overtime podcasts, so I won't get into it too much here. But like I said, it was the first full stadium event that I've been to since the pandemic, and it was strange, but it was nice, if that makes any sense. It was strange to be around that many people, not wearing masks, but it felt like, yeah, we made it through. We're on the other side. So that was good. So those were my trips over the last couple of weeks. Mark, how about in the next couple of weeks?
Well,
you got anything planned?
I'm going to 2 new ballparks. One is going to be next Tuesday. At this time, will be in Lafayette, Indiana. Their reconstructed Loeb Stadium, brand new facility for the Prospect League team. So looking forward to that. Always excited to see a brand new stadium. And Thursday, I'm going to check out Prasco Park. It's not a new stadium. I've never been there. It's in Mason, Ohio. It's an amateur ballpark, and they host a variety of amateur games. And this weekend will be the Big East Championship. So I will be watching UConn baseball myself this weekend outside of Cincinnati. Seton Hall, Creighton, and one other team's playing there. Oh, Xavier. Xavier's going to be playing.
Seton Hall made the tournament for the Big East?
Yeah, they had a 500 record overall, but
UConn, the series I went to, UConn had played Seton Hall, 4-game series.
yes.
UConn won the 4 games by a combined score of like 65-10.
Yeah, they're the number 1 seed heading in and the favorites. But Prasco Park, what they do there is, and I've been waiting to go to this ballpark for a couple years. They have a lot of children's inflatables. They have pregame concerts. May not be the case this year. And they have theme nights. So this will be Montgomery Inn Barbecue Night, which is nowhere near Dinosaur Barbecue level. So you get that with your free admission. I had to get the tickets online. It's free, and that's the best part. Free tickets, and you get to see some top-level college baseball. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to next week, and we'll see where else the summer takes me.
You know, that's one of the – might be – you were talking about like the children's play areas and stuff. That might be one casualty to this pandemic, because that was something that Hartford always had at Dunkin' Donuts Park beyond the center field fence, was like a big children's play area. They don't have that now. At least they didn't. For my thing, I don't know if it was because it was a lack of time to get it set up, or because you can't really disinfect that properly. So is that something that we may see fall by the wayside now?
Well, we could see it fall. Yeah, maybe for the time being. I hope not forever, because you definitely want to entertain the kids when they come to the ballpark, because not all of them are baseball fans, and a lot of parents take their kids to the baseball game because of those areas. And they'll tell me 3 hours of my kids being entertained with food, and I get to hang out, drink a beer, talk to friends. I'm up for it.
Even the most well-behaved kid needs to go blow off some steam at some point.
No. And some of these ballparks are amazing.
Hartford still had Goat Pet out behind center field, but the inflatables were not there. So I didn't go pet the baby goat for a minute.
Hopefully 2022 we'll see these come back.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting to see what survives, what doesn't, what changes, what goes back. I also have our first big road trip planned this coming weekend, and I've got a new ballpark. We're gonna hit, new for me anyway, People's Bank Park in York, Pennsylvania.
Nice.
We're gonna catch the York Revolution.
It's been a while.
Yeah. Then we're gonna go to PNC Field in Scranton, or in Musica, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, Musica.
The last time we were in Scranton was 2013. We were there for the second game after they redid the ballpark.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
It was 30 degrees at night. The coldest baseball game I've ever been to.
Stop at Old Forge and get Old Forge style pizza. It's not too far away from the ballpark. It's a small little town with a main street.
Yeah.
And they have all these pizza parlors on top of each other. And I think Ravello's is the one that is one of the more popular ones, but different type of pizza.
Cool. I'll definitely keep that in mind.
Yeah.
And then after we're doing a dinner that day, so we'll have to have something quick. So pizza might do the trick. Yeah, because after we're going to head down to Allentown and Coca-Cola Park. There's a Coca-Cola Field. I always mix them up.
Yeah.
Whichever one it is.
Go to Yakko's Hot Dogs when you're in Allentown.
Coca-Cola Park.
So we'll see the Iron Pigs, and then on Memorial Day we'll be back in Hartford at Rentschler Field to see the NCAA lacrosse championship game. So Hopkins is not playing in it, but we'll enjoy ourselves nonetheless.
You know, whenever somebody mentions the Iron Pigs, just shout out to Mike Ventola.
Okay.
Who
Mike Ventola.
Ventola. He is the play-by-play guy for the Iron Pigs, and I used to know this kid when he was in college. He's a few years younger than me, but he was in college, and he's a Yankees fan. He's going to he literally went to college to do this, and find him years later. He's calling games for the Iron Pigs, and he has a show called Venting Daily, which is a little play on his name. And the way we connect is we both love the Bronx Tale and Chaz Palminteri. And it's just so cool to see him pop up when the Iron Pigs play. I'm like, I knew that kid when he wanted to do this. He's doing it now. That's great. And I'm not a hockey player.
Yeah, so many of us are not doing what we
Everything I wanted to do, I couldn't do because I wasn't tall enough. And I'm like, well, Dad, it's your fault for marrying the short woman.
Is your dad a tall man?
No, he's he's all right. So Kelly's 5'11". Dad's 5'9". My mom's under 5 foot. I got in the middle, but then when he follows Kelly, Kelly's taller. So I'm like, just thanks, Dad.
So that's
I wanted to be a hockey player. I wanted to be a wrestler and a baseball player. I wanted to be one of those three things. Like, you can't do any of those. You're too short. All right. Trevor Sen says otherwise, but
okay. So once again, we want to thank Zack Fisch for joining us tonight, and we'll thank Dave for joining us tonight too. If you want to follow Dave online, you can find him at ProFan9. Dan, how about you? Where can our listeners find you online?
Find me being short at DanLaw83.
Mark, how about yourself?
You can find me at Ballpark Hunter across all platforms, including YouTube, where I have videos every Monday and Thursday. Check them out. Latest is old ballpark commercials. I've taken some of your favorites from the 80s and 90s, spliced them together, trip down memory lane.
Nice. And you can follow me on the social medias at PuckmanRI. And don't forget to check out the website after you listen to the podcast, of course, stadiumjourney.com. Like, follow, share, and subscribe to Stadium Journey on all the social media channels. You can find the Stadium Journey podcast by searching HIAC Talk Radio Network on whatever podcast app you use, or on Spotify. We're there too.
Please like, share, and subscribe.
Yes, like, share, subscribe, donate.
Or pay me outright.
Yeah, avoid the middleman. Just
costs money, y'all.
We simulcast live every other Tuesday night at 8 Eastern on twitch.tv/DanLaw83. Thanks to those of you who have hung in all night. And we will return in 2 weeks on June 8th. We tentatively have a guest from the Tri-City Dust Devils, but we will confirm that. So join us in 2 weeks. Until then, everyone, be safe with your stadium journeys, please, as everything opens back up. We'll see you in 2 weeks.